Hit it. Mr. President, Mrs. Clinton, on behalf of the Georgetown class of 1968, let me express our collective appreciation for your generous hospitality and the warm welcome that we are enjoying here on this evening of the most memorable reunion celebration in Georgetown's annals. This is not only an event without parallel for Georgetown, but also one that is unique in the history of the White House and worthy of the Guinness Book of Records. Mr. President, as 660 fellow members of your class of 1968 and their guests gather here tonight, the total of 1,280 is the largest seated dinner ever held at this magnificent home of our nation's presidents. Mr. President, the class of 1968 celebrates this evening the milestone of a quarter century since our graduation from Georgetown. And it does so with the enormous pride that you, one of our classmates, has become the first Georgetown graduate to attain the presidency of the United States. In this, the world's most powerful and demanding political position, we wish you every success as the 42nd President of the United States of America. And we are confident that the education we all receive together at Georgetown will serve you well as you lead this country into the 21st century. This evening, classmates have returned from 43 states and 13 other countries to join in this celebration. It's a long way from Alaska and Hawaii to Washington, but classmates have made the trip back from those states. Others have come here this evening from Canada, Great Britain, Austria, Italy, France, Switzerland, Japan, Uruguay, Israel, Zimbabwe, Greece, and Saudi Arabia. But the prize for the longest trip back goes to Paul Fitzgerald and his wife, Mary Kate Egan, who were with the UN Election Commission in the jungles of Cambodia. Mr. President, you and the First Lady have been living at the White House just a little over 4 months, so we're still timely for a housewarming. And in that tradition, your classmates have collaborated to bring some housewarming gifts with them this evening, which we hope you'll enjoy during your 8 years in the White House and thereafter. First, you'll need some fine art to cover one of the many empty walls in the White House. And to help you do that, our classmate, Josephine Hayden Ludolph, a renowned Washington area artist who, like Jean-Jacques Rousseau before her, avoids the pitfall of the proverbial starving artist by working as an economist at the Department of Commerce, has created an image of Georgetown University on the banks of the Potomac River. Josephine.
President and Mrs. Clinton, as a token of our appreciation and remembrance of this reunion, I'm pleased to present this painting to you. It holds a perspective of the Potomac, upriver, and Georgetown. I hope that it will always remind you of all the friends gathered here tonight. So that all can share, I created a poster based on this painting, which everyone here tonight received at registration. Thank you so much. My best to you both.
Mr. President, Mrs. Clinton, before we proceed to the next housewarming gift, on behalf of the class of 1968, I'd like to take a brief moment to thank two individuals who have worked tirelessly for the past 3 months here at the White House to arrange this evening's celebration. The White House Social Secretary, Ann Stock, and Debbie Siebert. Debbie Siebert is a Georgetown class of 1972 graduate and the wife of our classmate, Tom Siebert. Now, I must say we're going to miss Tom and Debbie, who will be leaving Washington soon to take up residence in Stockholm, where you, Mr. President, have asked Tom to serve as the new American ambassador to Sweden. Mr. President, yesterday evening at Georgetown, your classmates viewed a wonderful video retrospective of our years at Georgetown. And that was made possible through the artistic direction of Matt Andrea, Kathy Basco, and Eileen Guilfoyle. As well as the generous financial and technical support of Blockbuster Entertainment, which also is producing the evening's entertainment program that will follow. On behalf of the class of 1968, here is a copy of that video. What do you say? Listen. And let me suggest that it would be a great addition to one of your Friday evenings at the movies in the White House screening room. Mr. President, Colonel Gaydon Thompson, one of our classmates, who together with Bill Burke and Bob Finan did a terrific job arranging the reunion golf tournament at the Army-Navy Country Club on Thursday, is the next of our classmates with a presentation to make. Gaydon?
Mr. President, Mrs. Clinton, on behalf, I know, of all of us, thank you so much for this evening. It caps what has, for all of us, been just a magnificent reunion week, and we really are appreciative of all that you've done for us. Now, Mr. President, I know that for many, many years you've always had an ambition, and that dream came true last year, and you achieved what you had always sought. And what I'm speaking, of course, is that for Christmas you received a marvelous new set of golf clubs. And on behalf of all of your classmates who are also avid golfers, and as you know, we began our reunion weekend by having a chance to participate in a reunion golf tournament. And at that tournament, we enjoyed and all talked about the fact that we were envious of the fact that you got a magnificent new set of golf clubs. So we thought it would only be fitting that the next time you got a chance to get out and play around, that you would have something appropriate to take them in. And we got a bag that not only will symbolize your association with Georgetown, because the colors, as you will notice, will be both blue and gray, but also, of course, it will have the presidential seal on it. And it wasn't until the bag arrived, this is just a little side, that I noticed that on the label, the model of this particular bag is the Bushwhacker. So on behalf of us all, we wish you the very best, and hopefully you can get out sometime and have an opportunity to use this. The original Bushwhacker.
Before we proceed to the next housewarming gift, mention should be made that a major aspect of this reunion was the raising of a 25th Reunion Gift Fund to be contributed to Georgetown University to further its educational goals, in particular to help meet the ever-increasing financial assistance needs of its students as the cost of higher education mounts everywhere. Earlier today, the class of 1968 presented its reunion gift of $1,150,000 That gift was presented to Father Leo J. O'Donovan, Georgetown's president, and the classmates who led the Reunion Gift Committee's record-breaking effort, Bob Billingsley, Paul Malloy, and Alex Zakopowski, have earned a round of applause from us all. Mr. President, Mrs. Clinton, the next of our classmates to present a housewarming gift on behalf of the class is Melinda Bates, the director of the White House Visitor's Office. But before she does so, let me note that Melinda orchestrated yesterday morning's White House tour for 1,000 members of the class of 1968 and their families, an event particularly enjoyed by your classmates' children who participated. Melinda has worked many long hours to make this reunion a success, and everyone who participated in this effort is deeply appreciative to her. Melinda?
Mr. President and Mrs. Clinton, since tonight's theme is a housewarming, your classmates and friends wanted to bring you something that would be both practical and elegant, sort of like a Georgetown education. So our goal was to bring you something that you would use every day that would remind you of Georgetown and of all of us. This gift of china is for your use in the residence over the next 8 years. And after that, we will allow you to go home. It has your alma mater seal in the middle. It has the presidential seal at the top. The border is Georgetown blue. It is our hope that as you use it every day, it will remind you of Georgetown and of all of us and our deep and long-lasting affection for you.
Mr. President, Mrs. Clinton, the final housewarming gift of the class of 1968 will be presented not by a member of our class, but rather by an individual who is in a class of his own, the legendary photo portrait artist, Yusuf Karsh. Born in Armenia 84 years ago, Mr. Karsh emigrated as a teenager to Canada, where he opened his first studio in 1932. Since then, he has established himself as the world's preeminent photo portrait artist, whose subjects have included Winston Churchill, Pope Paul II, and countless other world political leaders, performing artists, and authors. His works are in the collections of New York's Museum of Modern Art and the Metropolitan Museum of Art, Chicago's Art Institute, the National Portrait Gallery in London, and the National Gallery of Canada in Ottawa. Mr. Karsh has photographed every American president since Franklin Delano Roosevelt and every First Lady since Mrs. Eleanor Roosevelt. Mr. President, Mrs. Clinton, the Georgetown class of 1968 felt that this tradition is one that must remain unbroken. And so we asked Mr. Karsh to come to Washington a month ago to create the photo portraits that he will unveil this evening. Yusuf Karsh has said that to make enduring photographs, one must learn to see with one's mind's eye, for the heart and the mind are the true lens of the camera. Mr. President, Mrs. Clinton, to see the results of this blending of the heart, the mind, and the photographic lens of Yusuf Karsh, let us turn to Mr. Karsh himself.
Thank you, Mr. Chorba, for your gracious remarks, Mr. President and the First Lady. Tonight, I'm honored that I'm to join the ghost of Abraham Lincoln as the second mystery guest of the White House. Why am I here once again, Mr. President, when I did not graduate from Georgetown in 1968? The secrecy surrounding my presence is part of an elaborate plot to keep us from meeting before this moment tonight. A happy photographic conspiracy. On the occasion of Winston Churchill's 90th birthday celebration, he was photographed by a young 22-year-old photographer. When he finished, the young photographer bowed respectfully and said, "Sir, I hope I will have the honor of coming to photograph you when you are 100 years old." Churchill looked at him up and down appraisingly and replied, "Young man, you look hale and hearty. I see no reason why not." This evening, the occasion is reversed. I dare hope that when I am 100 years old, I will have the honor of photographing you, Mr. President, and the First Lady once again. But for now, the reason for all this secrecy, I have the pleasure to present to you and the First Lady the results of our recent photographic session, my gift and the gift of your Georgetown University class of 1968, who celebrate with you tonight. It is my privilege to unveil the First Lady's portrait first.
Give him a hand. Thank you.
I just want to thank all of you for giving us the excuse to have this great party and for giving my husband so much pleasure, friendship, support, confidence building, money, and in general, the kind of friendship that has to be rooted in the common experiences of one's youth. Today, he pulled out all the yearbooks, sat there with the basketball game going, talking on the phone and interrupting whomever he was talking with by saying, "Oh, I hope he's there. I hope I get to see how she's doing." And so it's a real personal pleasure for us to have all of you here. I particularly want to thank Tim for all that he did and everyone who worked with him. I really wasn't aware until this evening that this was the largest seated dinner in White House history. And for that, I want to thank, and I hope you will join in thanking with me, the entire White House staff and everyone associated with them. And finally, I want to thank all of you, but particularly Father O'Donovan's mother, for the prayers that held off the rain so that the class of '68 would have a long overdue dry celebration and would be able to enjoy one another and to know that 25 years may seem to some like a very short time. But I think for all of us tonight, it is a time worth remembering, worth reflecting on, and worthy if we build on it to go forward from it. So we are very grateful to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. First, let me say that I have had the time of my life tonight. It has been wonderful to see all of you. I want to thank Josephine for the wonderful, wonderful painting, Melinda for the china, which I will gladly embrace and report on my ethics forum. I want to thank Gaydon for the golf bag. I was so impressed. You know, he's one of the few people I can directly help. Since he's a colonel, and he gave me a golf bag. The good news is I have a golf bag. The bad news is I don't have time to play. Therefore, tomorrow I think I'll make him a general. And send him to Bosnia. You know, I have so much to thank you for. I thank you for these wonderful gifts all and these magnificent portraits by the remarkable Mr. Karsh, whom getting to know was worth the time of the sitting. Were it not for many of you, I would certainly not be here tonight. Those of you who walked in the snows of New Hampshire, who defended me against withering attacks, who raised money when people said there was no chance this campaign could prevail. To all of you, I thank you for that. To every one of you who contributed to this class gift, I thank you for that. I think that the person we ought most to recognize has been under-recognized, and that is our remarkable, generous, incredibly energetic classmate, Tim Chorba, for everything he has done. One of the things the last year and a half afforded me was the opportunity to see so many of you. And today, as I was looking back over the yearbooks and looking back over the years, reaching back across all that time and also thinking about those of you who I've seen in the last year and a half, I want to say that I appreciate those of you who said that you're proud that I got to be president, but I want you to know that very often I came back from those trips exceedingly proud of all of you. Proud of your accomplishments, proud of your remarkable continuing idealism. Remarkably free, I think most of us still are from the cynicism that seems to grip so many people in this age and time. I think I was proud of the commitment that so many of you have to your families, your children, your communities. Proud of the courage you showed in day-to-day living. Many of you, in ways you will never know, were a terrific inspiration to me. And I was reminded of that tonight as I saw you coming up to say hello. It seems impossible in some ways that it was 25 years ago tomorrow that we were getting ready to graduate. We were all caught up in the presidential politics of that time. Tomorrow, 25 years ago, Senator Robert Kennedy was assassinated and changed the last few days of our Georgetown life forever. And tomorrow night, I will go to be with his family at a memorial mass in his honor. Graduation ceremony, and a great cloud came up. And Walter Washington, the mayor of Washington, gave the shortest speech I have ever heard. Do you remember what he said? He said, I have this wonderful speech and I'd like to give it, but we'll all drown. If I do, good luck and God bless you. And he could have been elected president at that moment had we been voting. But the bottom line is, a lot of us never got to say goodbye. Some of us saw each other at various reunions in between or by accident or design, and some of us have probably not seen each other for 25 years. But I do believe that we still have a sense that each of our lives has a mission, that it is as important as our obligations to our families and as big as our obligation to our country, and for many of you, to people all around the world. I think that we still believe that our lives will be more meaningful if somehow they are connected to causes greater than ourselves and our immediate benefit. You know, a lot of you have been incredibly supportive of me tonight because I haven't had the best week or two in the press or in the polls, but let me remind you of a thing or two. When Winston Churchill rallied Britain in World War II, it was 2 years before they ever won a battle, and that long before we joined to help them. When Abraham Lincoln literally gave his life to keep this country together and worked so late at night up in that house, it was 3 years before he found a general who would fight the war. An awful lot of this job is not worrying about the day-to-day ups and downs. It is having internal convictions about what we are and what we can become and what we ought to do. And just getting up every day and going to work just like you do, like every one of you do. And what I want to say to you tonight is that you will never know how happy it's made me to have you here. I had to promise Chorba, who's always task-oriented, that I would also say in his goal to break this year's gift that if I am reelected, we'll have our 30th party here. But I want you to we did it, children. But let me close with this. We were given, in my opinion, a phenomenal gift, all of us, by having the opportunity to be at Georgetown and to be there when we were, with those who were there teaching us. Many of them also made lifetime commitments, the kinds of commitments that very few people will make anymore. And because of their discipline and commitment and concern, we learned some things and experienced some things and kept some measure of order in a very chaotic and difficult time. And for that, I am profoundly grateful. And for all these years in between, I am also grateful. And I hope as you leave here tonight and we have all the fun and hear all the music, we will remember at least that it is still our obligation to make something of the time which we have left on this earth. Some of our classmates are not here, and I am so glad their children, their spouses, their parents are here, their sisters, their brothers, to remind us of what we shared with them and of our incredible obligation to make the most of every day. We cannot afford to be ground down by the difficulties of the moment, the cynicism of the time, or the pervasive lack of belief of others. What we learned in our time was that we could do better. And that is our obligation tomorrow and for the next 25 years and for as long as we hang around. And that is the only way we can do honor to the education that was given us so long ago at this wonderful school. I thank you for being here. I thank you for being my friends. And most of all, I thank you for sharing that remarkable time and for what it has done to make all of our lives better still today. God bless you all.